Hear me now. Good. Well, we're going to talk about God's creation here in a minute, but before that, we're going to talk about baseball. It's summertime. It's baseball time. And I know Tyler's played some ball. I've played some ball. Now, I've been told, I don't know whether it was by experts or not, but I've been told that baseball is a simple game. Is it a simple game? On its basics, it's a simple game, right? Tyler agrees with me. It's a simple game. You throw the ball, you catch the ball, and when you got a bat in your hand, you hit the ball. Agreed? That's the basics of baseball. Now then, Tyler, how old were you when you started playing ball?
In the backyard, probably 4.
4? Okay. All right. Did you catch very well when you were 4?
No,
Did you hit very well when you were 4?
not as well as I did later.
Later. Okay, we're going to talk about later in a second. So you didn't catch or throw very well when you were 4, and you didn't hit very well?
No.
No. Okay. So, Tyler, what helped you catch better?
Playing a lot of catch.
Playing a lot of catch. What helped you? Yeah, practice again, right? And what helped you with hitting?
Practicing hitting.
Hitting, right. And how long did you play?
Through my senior year of high school.
Okay, so by the time you were a senior in high school, you could catch pretty well, you could throw pretty well, and you could hit reasonably well.
Yeah, well enough.
Yep. And you enjoyed the game. Yeah. So was it frustrating when you first started?
A little bit, but at the same time you didn't know any better. But then,
Yeah, but you learned. All right. So baseball on its face is simple. Now we're going to talk about God. God makes it pretty simple for us if you really stop and think about it. God gave us this. This is Bible 101, just like I was talking about baseball 101. It's simple. Okay? God accumulated all the stories in this and gave them to us. Now we have an advantage over everybody else that's lived before us. We have a book, if you want a book. And how many people in here have a cell phone on them right now? Right now. Yeah. And now you carry it around with you all the time. Probably everybody has an app, right? I see 3 down here, okay? So everybody has a lot of access to the Bible is what I'm pointing out. A ton of access. Today we're going to start with God's creation. We're going to be in Genesis, the first chapter. So if you want to follow along, that's fine. If you want to read what's up on the, man, that's little from here. I'll read it here. We're going to read the first chapter because this is God's creation. This is the foundation of everything else that happens. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. God said, "Let there be light," and there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And he separated the light from the darkness, and God called the light day, and the darkness he called night. And there was evening, and there was morning, the first day. And God said, let there be a vault between the waters to separate the water from the water. So God made the vault and separated the water from under the vault from the water above it. And it was so. God called the vault sky, and there was evening, and there was morning the second day. And God said, let the water under the sky be gathered in one place, let the dry ground appear. And it was so. God called the dry ground land and gathered the waters, and he called seas, and God saw that it was good. Then God said, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds, and it was so. The land produced vegetation, plants bearing seeds according to their kinds, and the trees bearing fruit with seeds in it according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. And there was morning the third day. God said, let there be light in the vault of the sky and separate the day from the night. Let them serve as signs to mark sacred times and days and years. And let the lights be the vault in the skies to give light on the earth. And it was so. God made two great lights, the greater light to govern the day and the lesser light to govern the night. And he also made the stars. God set them in the vault of the sky to give light to the earth, to govern the day and the night, to separate light from darkness. God saw that it was good. And there was evening and there was morning the fourth day. And God said, let the water teem with living creatures. Let the birds fly above the earth across the vault of the sky. So God created great creatures of the sea and everything with which the water teems and that moves about in it, according to their kinds, and every winged bird according to its kind. And God saw that it was good. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number, and fill the water with the sea, the water in the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. And there was evening, and that was the morning of the fifth day. And God said, let the land produce living creatures according to their kinds, the livestock, the creatures that move along the ground, the wild animals, each according to its kind. And it was so. God made the wild animals according to their kinds, the livestock according to their kinds, and all the creatures that move along the ground according to their kinds. And God saw that it was good. Then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish and the seas in the sky, and over the livestock and all the wild animals and all the creatures that move along the ground. Oh, I lost my place. Oh, so God created the mankind in his own image. In the image of God, he created them. Male and female, he created them. God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number. Fill the earth and subdue it. Rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, over every living creature that moves on the ground. And God said, I give you every seed-bearing plant on the face of the whole earth, and every tree that has fruit with seed in it. And they will be yours for food. And all the beasts of the earth, and all the birds in the sky, and all the creatures that move on the ground, and everything that has the breath of life in it, I give every green plant for food. And it was so. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. And it was evening, and there was morning the sixth day. Thus the heavens and the earth were complete in their vast array. By the seventh day, God had finished the work he had been doing. So on the seventh day, he rested from all his work. Then God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because he rested on it from all his work in creating that he had done. I'll find where I'm at here in a minute. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. God made something out of nothing. From creation until now, man has never made anything out of nothing. That fact alone makes me believe in God. I believe the account in Genesis is exactly what God wants us to know. The world was formless. Actually, the universe was formless, empty and dark. God spoke and there was light. God made day and night. And he saw that it was good. God's plan's already in motion. God's light continues through the rest of the Bible. Then God creates water, sky, and ground. It appears at his command. The earth had sky, sea, and land. Again in verse 10, God saw that it was good. Then God commands the land to produce plants, seed-bearing plants, and trees. I know no one who has ever said, grow a tree, and had it grow. Anybody here know anybody that's done that? Oh, okay, so I'm not the strange one. God can do that, man cannot. Next, God said, let there be stars, sun, and moon. The plan was moving forward. Sun for the day, moon for the night, stars for the night. God said that it was good. God spoke again, and there were birds and great creatures in the sea. And God blessed them and increased them in number and told them to fill the sea and the earth. And God saw that it was good. Then God speaks, and livestock, snakes, wild animals appear on the land, and it was good. Then God made man. We are made in God's image. How often do we remember that we are made in God's image? In Genesis 1:27, it says that God created male and female in the image of God. No other types or kinds. Or forms. He blesses male and female and tells them to be fruitful and increase in number. God gave man the whole world and told us to manage it. Genesis 1:31, when God saw all that he had made was very good. Not just good, but very good. God doesn't make junk. God didn't make junk, and he didn't leave us with junk. It was very good. Then what does God do? His creation is complete, and it was a vast array, far beyond anything we can really think about. The universe is far, far larger than we can. I mean, we see pictures of it, and it is just mind-boggling. This is what my God has done. Made a universe that is so expansive, and we're just one little bitty piece of that vast universe that God has made. On the seventh day, what does God do? He rests. He took the day off. He blessed it, and he made it holy. Part of the plan from the very start. The example is there. God didn't need to create the universe and everything in it. He chose to create it. Have you ever asked yourself why? Here's my answer. I think it's because God is love. And love is best expressed towards something or someone. God made us perfect. Because of his love, and we need to be respectful of God's creation and avoid reducing God's creation to man's understanding. To me, the important part of God's creation is love. The creation story tells us some things about God and ourselves. First, God. God is creative. God is a creator. He is different and distinct from us. God is eternal and in control of everything. We learn as God's creation that we are valuable to Him. We are more important than animals, and God put us over all of His creation. In writing this lesson, it came to me that as God creates and made everything that we can see around us, that we live in, beyond where we live, God is a creator. Man, on the other hand, it seems to me, is a destroyer. It seems to me that we are doing our very best to make it dark, empty, and formless. Think about it. Murder, not just the taking of life, but not loving our neighbors as ourselves. Stealing, corruption, unjust decisions, war, and on and on. Most of these sins can be reduced to one thing: pride. Or saying, God, I can do it without you. I'll be blunt. No, you can't. That's what I believe. We have story after story of people who tried to do it without God, and every time it results in failure. So, if you want to be an eternal loser, deny God. God didn't create robots to worship Him. He gave us the ability to choose between right and wrong in our lives. We know, according to Genesis 1 through 2 and 3, that there was no sin the first 7 days. But by the time we get to the second chapter of Genesis, in the story of Adam and Eve, sin is recorded. God gave them one thing not to do. One thing. Don't eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, or you will surely die. Genesis 2 and 17. The good life that God gave them in the perfect garden, the paradise, died for all mankind. I believe that God knew from the start that man would choose sin over obedience. I'll mention a few of man's failures. Adam and Eve banished from the garden, Cain and Abel, the flood, the Tower of Babel, Abram's lies, Sodom and Gomorrah, Lot and his daughter's incest, Jacob cheats his brother Esau, the rape of Dinah, Simeon and Levi kill every male in Shechem. And we're only a little over halfway through Genesis. God knew that man needed help. God loved man enough to give him some help. He gave him the 10 Commandments. The first commandment is, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You will have no other gods before me. Exodus 20, 1 through 3. Leviticus 19:18 says, don't seek revenge or bear a grudge against your people, but love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. Deuteronomy 6 and 5 says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. God's plan for man continues through the Old Testament into the New Testament when Jesus is born. Jesus is born a Jew, raised a Jew, lived as a Jew, kept the law perfectly as a Jew, according to God. Jesus is then wrongly accused, beaten, shamed, and cursed by man. Once again, an example of God made it perfect, and we took it apart. Jesus is crucified on the cross where he suffered and died and was separated from God. But because God loved his own son and man, that's us. He raised Jesus from the dead. Jesus paid the price for us. In Matthew 22, 37 through 40, Jesus combines Leviticus 19 and 18 and Deuteronomy 6 and 5. Jesus says, love the Lord with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment, and the second is like it, love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. Jesus had said earlier in Matthew 5 and 17 through 20 that he was here to fill the law, not to abolish it. In 1 Peter 2, 9 through 12, Peter calls Christians royal priests, a royal priesthood, a holy nation. What it means to me, Peter is saying, example, example, example. Priests had certain things they had to do in order to remain pure, in order to remain holy, in order to serve in the tabernacle or the temple. It was a rigorous thing to keep themselves pure and holy. And now we are called what? We are called royal priests. You are a chosen people, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, God's special possession, that you might declare praises of him who called you out of the darkness of into his wonderful light. Once again, the creation story, the wonderful light. Once you were not a people, but now you are the people of God. Once you had not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. Dear friends, I urge you, as foreigners and exiles, to abstain from sinful desire, which wage war against your soul. Live such good lives among the pagans, that's the world, that they accuse you of doing wrong, that you may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day he visits us. Pray, study, and teach. Just like my example of the baseball and the bat, you're not going to improve your skills if you put this baseball under your pillow or sleep with a bat by your side or your mitt under your pillow. You're not going to improve your skills as far as being able to understand God's Word by having the Bible on the coffee table or by your bed or under your pillow or in the trunk of your car or wherever you threw it last. Peter's telling us to stay away from sin. One of the best ways that we can get that done is pray and study. Then our faith will increase. Hebrews 11, 1 through 6. Now faith is the confidence in what we hope for and assurance of what we do not see. This is what the ancients were commended for. By faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command. Again, the creation. So, what was seen was made out of what was visible. What is not seen is made out of what was visible. By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offering. And by faith, Abel still speaks even though he is dead. By faith, Enoch was taken from this life so that he did not experience death. He could not be found because God had taken him away. For before he was taken, he was commended as one who pleased God. Without faith, it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him. Faith is confidence based on past experience. I know that I can throw a ball because I've done it before. Tyler knows that he can throw a ball because he's done it before. The beginning point of faith is in believing in God's character. He is who he says he is. The end point is believing in God's promises. He will do what he says. When we believe God will fulfill his promises, even though we don't or didn't see it happen, we show true faith. My faith is the God who created the entire universe just by speaking. My God is an awesome God. These verses speak of people in the Old Testament who developed a great faith and did what God told them to do. Great followers of God are mentioned. Abel, who speaks even though he is dead. Enoch, who was taken by God, didn't experience death. And again, a great example of one whose life was commended by God. But the list goes on and on. Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Joshua, Rahab, Caleb, Gideon, Barak, Samson, David, Samuel, and the prophets. Hebrews 11:38 and 39 tells us that these people were made perfect by having the faith to do what God told them to do. We are made perfect by having the faith to do what Jesus told us to do. 38 and 39 read, the world was not worthy of them. They wandered in deserts and mountains, living in caves and holes in the ground. These were all commended for their faith, yet none of them received what had been promised. Jesus' last words in Matthew 28:18. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you to the very end of the age. If you're ready to commit your life to Christ through baptism, or you need to recommit, come now.